To all there out in the ether, welcome. Welcome to Avatar Mayor Baba's Circle of Friends. Welcome to our little colloquy on how the Circle Center can serve you. Most of you on this call are intimately acquainted with the Circle of Friends, but for those who might not be, I'm just going to spend about 2 minutes telling you a little bit about us and particularly about the Circle Center. By the way, with me at the Circle Center now we have Fetish Azad, Jim Knutson, Jeff Stearns, and Judy Mangold, all of them on our board of directors. So we actually have the entire board of directors either remotely or at the Circle Center. So the Circle is an outgrowth of another association called the Grand Strand Mayor Baba Group that started in 2005. And that became the Circle of Friends in 2006 when we wanted to have a more enduring group. From about 2006 to 2013, we were incorporated in the state of South Carolina, but we got our IRS incorporation on 501c3 status. And then in 2016, we had the opportunity to finally do something. This was after conferring with the community for almost 2 years, do something that had been a dream of the local community for a long time, and that get a place where things could be done that were either deemed impractical or inappropriate at the Mayor Spiritual Center. And so in March of 2016, we contracted with Myrtle Beach Mall for the Circle Center. And the Circle Center was conceived as a place where almost anything goes. In other words, a universal center where people could express themselves, either one individual coming perhaps to tell a Baba story, or where we might have hundreds of people coming. And we've actually had events that have I guess our low is 1 and our high is 110 or 115 when we've had special presentations. And just about everything has been done at the Circle Center since we opened it. We've had educational, secular, and faith events. Secular events like astronomy study and Spanish learning. And we've had conferences. The Zonta Club of Myrtle Beach had a conference here on human trafficking. And we've actually had a health and service conference as well. And other things. We've had art events of every type. We've had gospel singers from True Life Church. And then, of course, we've had over 1,000 events at the Circle Center from 2016 to 2020, when, of course, things pretty much stopped at the end of February. We've had recurring events, such as a drumming circle that's been here, Farside Cinema, and Effort and Grace, which were things which occurred every week or every other week. And then we've had a whole series of anything from workshops from Ward's Park to Jamie Newell and others, Baba meetings of all kinds, academic, some very, very wonderful academic presentations, poetry, plays, including the very, very successful Amore Divino in Portofino, done by Joe Di Sabatino and players, and we did that in concert with the Mayor Spiritual Center. And we've done a few events in concert with the Mayor Spiritual Center, including their CPR workshop, which they needed for staff. We've had poetry, just about everything you can imagine. We've had a wedding reception here, and we've had memorial services, over 5 memorial services here. We have stuff which is very, very way out, and we have stuff which is totally mainstream in Mayor Baba. We've had Circle Cinema, where we've shown foreign films and wonderful domestic films, some of them with spiritual themes, others I'm not so sure. So that particular idea of the Circle Center being a place where anybody could come, even people from the outside community, if they needed it and the space were available, and just talk or do whatever they wish to do. In other words, where they could have a forum, a lyceum, if you prefer. That concept is very dear to us, and it manifested beautifully until the day that will live in infamy, which must be the first day, perhaps, that somebody in the United States contracted COVID. I think it's January 10th or something, the first case in the United States. And then you all know the rest of the story about that. The Circle Center was opened up again. The board decided to open it up again for public meetings on Saturday. So we're open from 3 to 5 on Saturday. Masks and social distances are required. We do have some private meetings that tend to meet on Sundays, sometimes Fridays, and Wednesdays, where private groups of people use it, mainly to play cards and for other kinds of fellowship socializing. So it's not totally unused, but it is about at 2% or 1% of the use that it used to have. The same concept of the Circle Center, an idea of a universal forum where people could express themselves for Baba or in some other context. I am happy to say, because of the glorious work of our president, Angela Lee Chen, and others, Ferishti Azad and Jim Knutson, and many, many people globally, has been taken up by our Zoom outreach. And very fortunately, the Circle really has been able to have an impact because of that. But this particular discussion right now is really centered on the physical space, which perforce is limited because we're right across the street from the Mayor's Spiritual Center in the mall. There has been very legitimately great fear of many people in our community about meeting in any enclosed physical space. We have an aged community in Myrtle Beach, by and large. I mean, Baba lovers, of course, and non-Baba lovers too. And so many of us are high risk. I technically would be considered high risk because I've had cardiovascular issues in the past. And many of you out there, either you might consider yourself high risk as well. Certainly, some of us are over 65, and that itself can be a risk factor. So it's very understandable that even with social distancing, which we observe, even with masks, even with sanitizing, that many, many people are afraid to come back to the Circle Center. That is something important. So there is two questions, and I'm going to introduce to lead this discussion John Leiter after this little peroration, but there are two questions right off the bat that I would like to broach. The first, of course, is the central question of which this Zoom meeting is about, which is how can the Circle Center serve you? Because certainly any way that we could do would be wonderful. But a secondary question, which maybe is almost a primary question, is what would have to happen currently in the United States to enable you, and I'd say you all out there, to feel comfortable coming to an enclosed space, any enclosed space, like the Circle Center? Because I think that's the more general question. And I think it may even be the more germane question at the outset. So with that, John, I'm going to sit here a little bit, mute myself, unless I have something to say, and let you take over the discussion. John is very, very good at taking over and moderating discussions because he has a very moderate personality for a lawyer. So, okay, John, you're on.
Thank you, Dennis. But let me ask, I had the impression that Al we were going to show the video that Al and Jim did.
Hello, this is Al Grasso, reporting from the Myrtle Beach Mall, across from the Meher Baba Spiritual Center in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. This is the center of the food court I'm at now. You can see Carrabba's Pizza down the hall. This hallway, we have the Cinema 12, Bass Pro Shop. The other end of the hall, we have Belk. And this is a circle of friends hallway that we're going to. At the end was J.C. Penney's, who, like many other J.C. Penney's, closed shop a couple of months ago. We're the only establishment in this hallway now. So luckily, all the air we breathe from the different stores is air that has not been breathed on by other people. Also, we have a nice air purifier that we use when need be. And here we're coming to the circle of center. You can see it now. I'll get closer so you can see it. The purifier also has an ozonator. And as you'll see soon, we're very well distanced for anybody who's concerned about social distances. We have more like 8 feet than 6 feet, but here we are out in the hall, and I've arranged the chairs because we're having a concert the last day of the month. So the sofa chairs are hall chairs that are usually out here anyway, and I put a couple of extra chairs here. As you can see, they're all very well distanced. We'll have an amplifier facing the hall for any people passing by that want to sit for a little while, or for any Baba lovers that want to be extra cautious. So here we have the Circle Center, our center. We've been here for 4 years now, and people coming down, walking down the hallway, see us and our message here. Love is essentially self-communicative. That's on one side of the entrance. And then in the middle, when it's open to the public, we usually put out this information table. Here we have some Baba cards, Baba leaflets, the last issue of the Glow magazine, as well as little candies, cookies that are all individually wrapped, and our sign here that says, please have a cookie and a Meher Baba or candy, thank you. And on the other side of the entrance, we see another Baba message that I'm sure hundreds and hundreds of people have read. And I don't think you can see it very clearly, but it's a quote where Baba says, to penetrate into the essence of all being and significance, and to release the fragrance of that inner attainment for the guidance and benefit of others, by expressing in the world of forms, truth, beauty, purity, and love. This is a soul game which has any intrinsic and absolute worth. All other happenings and incidences can in themselves have no lasting value. So now as we enter the hall, first, the intention of this video is to show people, especially people in India, even in the States, who've never seen our center. And I myself have taken at least a half a dozen to a dozen people here on a personal tour when it wasn't open. I'm a volunteer, so I have a key. Now you can see this is our living room area, and we have 2 sofas and about 8 chairs. So a half a dozen people can very easily distance themselves using every other chair. Here we have beautiful Baba painting by Shaheem. And I'll show you a couple more paintings we have. Over here, we have one by Lenat. There's Baba. And to the side of that, we have a very nice painting by David Barrison. Oh, look who I see. I see Bobby Bernstein at the piano, and I think she's going to play a song for us in a minute or two. And over there, I see Chris Ott working on his emails and newsletters, hard at work. Since we're here, I'll show you one more painting and show you our dressing room as well as storage room. This is another painting by Lenat, and this is our storage room. Kind of cluttered right now because people are making donations, and hopefully when we open up, we'll have a nice sale here. We do have items for sale. Some of the paintings are for sale as well. And here we have some Baba items here, as you can see. Mastery and Servitude, some Baba cards, Baba books. Here we have a bookcase with other Baba books. And here we have a nice painting by Jim Frasino here. There we are, Baba and the Lamb. Here's another one, Charlie Mills, Baba's pointing at you. Here's one of Phyllis Ott. And this is our painting here by Woden, one of the 12 paintings that was in Monty's book. And here's a nice large painting, again by Charlie Mills, Baba in Western clothes, I guess coming to America. Little bookcase here. And Bobby, you ready to give us a song? Bobby's going to give us a special song. Thank you all for listening. We're going to end with Bobby. Welcome to my world. What a song.
Welcome to my world. Won't you come on in? Miracles I get still happen now and then. Welcome to
Friends.
wander all around, searching for the words, searching for a sound to tell me where to go. I didn't know, I didn't know. I wondered all the time, asking for the reason, asking for a sign to show me how. I couldn't give, couldn't give. And your love glance set me free to hear your silence speak to me, and I knew that all the while, searching for your smile. Was right here with a heart full of love, with a mind from fear. Now you've shown me what to do. Love you, just for you, for love. Just for you, for love.
Jay Baba. Before I thank everyone, Nan, if you're still with us, do you have anything you would like to say or raise with us before you leave?
No, I just, as I said in the note, I had no idea the circle had been done so well, so maybe people could do some things there, but no, I suppose the issue is rent, paying for rent for places not being used very much, but anyway, I'm sorry I have an earlier obligation, so I've got to go in a few minutes, but I'm glad you all are meeting. And I'm sorry I haven't been of much help. Maybe one of these days I'll get, anyways, but so. You've done a great job, all of you. You know, the newsletter, the Zoom, the making the circle look so beautiful. You know, I know it's a lot of work. Thank you.
Thank you, Nan.
And what might induce you to come to the Circle Center in person?
I mean, I would love to, if I could get Jeff to be up for it too, to do a concert. I had no idea that you were actually doing activities there. But yeah, I can't tell you, just a small gathering. That's obviously one of them. But yeah. I'm not doing very many gatherings, but if it's just a few people and people can be like 10 people can be far enough apart, then I would feel, because I have a lot of other people, you know, things to make it dangerous for me to be around sickness. But yeah, if I felt safe, I would come.
And I'm sorry. And how far apart would you ideally like them to be? Because we have 3,600 square feet plus the outside of the doors. So 10 feet, 15 feet, 6
I
feet.
feel comfortable with that. I think the problem is that we're all fond of each other and we want to hug each other, is that we're going to forget. I mean, no, I would feel comfortable with 6 or 10, but it's just, I know a few people who don't take it seriously, and I'm having to put my hands up and say, no, I'm not shaking hands, and I'm not, but mostly just kind of a safety that the people are going to take it seriously, and probably most of them do.
So Nan, we're not just focusing on you, but we're going to hate it when you leave. But I want to follow up on Dennis's question. And this is really a question I was going to ask everyone, including us, the board members, and Al. But what is it going to take for us to feel safe again, to give Baba hugs? And actually, one of the questions I was going to ask is, when was the last time any of you gave a Baba hug to someone who wasn't a close family member? And it's really a rhetorical question, but sort of to bring up the issue that our lives have changed because of this, and we're not able to do the things that we we took for granted. I mean, a Baba hug was something we just took for granted. And I can't remember the last time I mean, it was since January or whatever that I did that. But my question is, what do you need to hear or see or feel to feel safe, to say, okay, I can now venture out and be more like I used to be before the virus hit? And maybe there's nothing that can happen now. Maybe we're in a new world order, but it's really a question for everyone. But I'll start, if you don't mind me picking on you, I'd like to ask you that question.
I would have said if I knew I had the immunity, because I think I already had it, but I understand you can get it twice, so that's not even the case. I don't know the answer, and I'm not actually afraid of dying. It's the being sick that I don't like. Anyways, it's the part in between. I wish I knew. Now, unfortunately, it's just, I think the Baba hug is probably a long time in the future, unfortunately, but I think I would feel safe going to the circle if I knew, let's say, that you said 36 square feet, that you would limit it to like 20 people or 30 people, whatever number you figure can fit in that area. And, you know, if you said, okay, the first 20 people who want to do this event, I think I would feel fine with that. If the space looks probably big enough for X amount of people. You know, I do go to restaurants, so I always stay on the outside, but, you know, there are people probably within 6 or 10 feet. I would feel comfortable with that, and that everybody would have to wear a mask, which is sort of a drag, but, you know, otherwise it's too dangerous. We can get sick from one event to the next. It's not like, even if you had a test last week, that I've had one test, you know, that you're fine this week. That's the problem. So.
So to answer my own question, I'd have to answer it like you. I don't know the answer to it either. I feel like I'll know it when I hear it, but right now I can't say what I would need to actually feel more comfortable. And so I was hoping that with our collective wisdom, we might get some indicators of that. Well, let me say thank you to Al and Jim for the video. And I don't think Bobby's with us, but I would thank Bobby for that. I thought it was very creative and very sweet and very useful, actually. And Dennis, the same with your history. I actually learned about the circle just from listening to that. And I've been on the board now for, what, 3 or 4 years. So thank you for that history. Heidi, you saw me pick on Nan. If you let me pick on you a minute.
Yeah, you're not picking on me. I was just going to volunteer to speak anyway, so we're right on target.
Okay, well, we're focusing on the physical space
Right,
as part
right.
of the discussion, but the new reality is that the circle is now both physical and virtual, that we are not the same circle that we were before the coronavirus hit. And I feel that Baba had a hand, whatever all this is with Baba. I think one of it is that we are now a larger family. The circle is a physical family, those of us who live in Myrtle Beach and those who visit from out of town, but we're also a virtual family. And that has a bearing on the space as well.
I have some thoughts on it. I have some thoughts about that, because I think one of the things, I have had an opportunity to participate locally and in Florida when I'm there with a Center for Spiritual Living. And that center has been struggling in a similar way to Circle of Friends and experiencing how to cope with the great loss of not having a center space open and physical contact and an ability to be together in fellowship physically. So in that process, they have worked to have opportunities to open up physically. They had rent issues. They had all the same kinds of issues. And what I was wondering was, there's two things going on in my head around this. One is, what would it take for community members to feel comfortable to come? And you've addressed, some structures in the center to help promote utilization of the center and safety protocols. And then the other I have is, what would it take in terms of an umbrella structure to promote more utilization of the center now, the Circle of Friends now? For example, some of the groups I participated in went as far as having members who wanted to come physically sign a waiver. So I'm not suggesting this for Circle of Friends. I'm just saying what some folks are doing. Sign a waiver saying that if they choose to come to services or they choose to come to participate in activities, that they're not going to hold the center responsible if they happen to contact COVID. From that end to, the social distancing and noodling out the right types of space, what they're doing in terms of extra disinfecting of the facilities. For the Circle of Friends, does the mall help with disinfecting, or is that the responsibility of the circle? And is it cleaned on a regular basis? Do members have a responsibility, to bring disinfecting wipes if they use the bathroom and wipe up after themselves? It's just all part of the protocol. So some other centers I've been involved in are doing that too. Additionally, they're asking members to, even bring their own chairs. And for food, that's been a big issue, because I know it's such a beautiful thing to share a meal together and food. So some of the centers I've worked with, they're not serving food anymore, but they're allowing members to bring their own individual food, and they can social distance and eat together. They bring their own food. So they're doing that kind of thing. And then the other thing some of the centers are doing is actually having a volunteer take temperatures of people before they come in to a location. So, I mean, there's all kinds of things that, can be done that the circle's, I think, comfortable with to make it easier for members to consider utilizing it a little bit more than they are now. But I think it takes both, in my opinion.
Thank you for that.
Heidi, has this actually, have you seen that have those measures been taken down in Florida with that organization and have they
Yeah.
asked, and have they resolved?
I'm in New Jersey now. In December, I'll be in Florida and see how it works with that group. But there's a Center for Spiritual Living. It's the same kind of philosophy. In fact, it's a philosophy that Darwin Shaw knew about, but didn't, talk about. But, it mixes all religions. It's a eclectic and spiritually focused. But anyhow, so that group is national. Larry Pesta is actually who tends our effort in Grape. He's a reverend from that group, New Thought. And what they've done here in New Jersey was they started out implementing togetherness and fellowship outside because the weather was nice. So they started to do that, and they started to have a social distance annual picnic. Folks got comfortable with that. And then they actually got a new space that was larger so they could social distance a little bit better and include more people to come. They do take temperatures. They did have a waiver signed, so there was no liability issues if somebody came and got COVID and then said they got it at the center. And that I know that's a protocol in Florida right now. And they are having more members come. They don't hang out like they used to, from what I understand, but the circle folks might hang out a little bit more and play cards or whatever you're used to doing. But I think from my experience here, it was more purposeful that people are coming for fellowship and spiritual enrichment in an hour and a half activity. They have music typically, and then they go home. But at least it's something. They even had a bookstore. One of the centers had a bookstore, and they evolved that into a book table. So they actually took a table, put books out, had the books socially distanced even in a little way, and they had a pot where they didn't have to. People could. They had one price for one or two prices for most of the books, so it was easy for somebody to pop in a $5 bill or a $10 bill and not have to worry about credit cards or any cash or anything like that. And so they were still able to sell books and pamphlets and so forth that way. So that was good. And the hugging issue, I'll tell you, it's rough. I mean, when you see people and you haven't seen them for so long, your natural instinct is to run over. So I think everybody is there, and maybe addressing it ahead of time and whatever protocols and talking about it would help people to find a more creative way to hug at this point.
Right.
I tried to, I had a fight with somebody about this actually, and I said, you know what? I said, why don't you look at this like the movie Cocoon? Remember the love scene in Cocoon? And I forget, the alien and the marine person, they were in the cocoon pool, and they decided they're attracted to each other and they're going to make love, but they don't touch each other. They do it with energy. So they started to laugh, and it lightened the load a little bit. And then we were able to talk a little bit more about how to be more creative, with the hugging. It was even funny, but it's painful. Let's admit it. Mm-hmm. It's painful. It brings up a lot of issues, and we're still grieving that. Mm-hmm. We're grieving. It's a loss. Thank God for Angela and Circle of Friends, because immediately, that feeling, that loss was buffered by all the Zoom opportunity, which definitely Baba wanted to expand our links with each other and people knowing about him and exploring him in a different way. Because I was upset when I came to the center in 2017, and Jeff said to me, why don't you come to Circle of Friends in the F and Grace group? And I didn't even know about it. And I went, and all I did was cry that afterwards that I couldn't come. I didn't live in Myrtle Beach, and I couldn't come to that. And I bought the book, and I was reading it. And then the Zoom group happened, and I was like, my God, this is amazing. And it opened it for so many more people, you know? So you have two beautiful worlds going on, and maybe you can help them spin together, you know, because I worry that when the circle center opens again, that maybe there'll be less of a Zoom opportunity. And I hope that doesn't happen, because, and from my perspective, the Circle of Friends is it. It's the most inclusive, comprehensive, national and international venue for Mayor Baba that's ever existed, in my opinion. And I don't think anybody can replace it. And why I'm tearing about this is because it's a good thing, but I've known a lot of Baba groups over the 55 years I've been with Baba, from the Sufi group, all over. And there's always some edge, even locally, when I was attending Baba meetings, there was always some edge of non-inclusion. I can't explain it. Every group was different, but there was always a little bit of that going on all the time. And I've never, ever experienced any of that with Circle of Friends. And if it comes up to the surface, it gets wiped away immediately. It's done. You know, you can't even play games. People can't come to Circle of Friends, any activity, and play those kinds of things. Impossible. And it's just amazing. So I hope we can figure out a way to open physically and also simultaneously keep the non-physical connections going.
Thank you, Heidi.
Heidi, thank
No,
you.
thank you. Thank you.
And I'm tickled pink to hear that testimony personally. And I'm sure everyone, all of our board members, I'm sure are, and because I've never heard anyone talk about us quite that way. Thank you.
It's the truth. I remember being part of Mayor Baba groups here in this area, local area, and it wasn't easy to get to. It was far, and I worked so many hours, and I was caregiving. My husband was bedridden for 4 years a while back, and I was doing all this stuff, and I couldn't get to every meeting. And I just looked forward to getting the emails. So I would communicate and say, I can't come to the meeting, you know, this month, but please send me the emails. And members of the group decided not to send me the emails anymore because I didn't come for 3 times. But there was no rule about that. There was no communication. I just got cut off. And so I handled that. I dealt with that for sure, in a nice way. But the idea that could happen was disturbing to me. And I thought I have to take a stand for myself and on behalf of others. But it's going on for a reason. It's in Baba's hands for sure. There's a Baba purpose to it. I don't want any parts of it. I will stand differently. Whatever Baba's purpose is for others, that's wonderful, but I will stand differently in it. So it's important, you know, it's important. And I liked it when Al was talking one time about folks playing cards, I kind of laughed to myself because it's not something that I do. But I thought about it and I thought, dude, that'll kind of be neat. It's probably something, if I was at the Circle Center, I would watch people play cards just to learn how to play cards because I never, just to be there. You know what I mean? There's a lot of love going on at that circle when I visited it. It was just a beautiful place for people. So, I better shut up.
No, don't. Thank you for all of that. But one thing that I heard, or one of my takeaways from what you said, is that if the circle projects a strong safety protocol,
Yes, that's right.
That will help make people feel comfortable about re-entering, coming back. And I think that's a good point.
Right, because within that protocol and umbrella, then people can make individual choices about how safe they feel. Mm-hmm. When you think about it, we do it with everything now, don't we? Kind of.
I think.
With every place. So I think it would help a lot.
I see that Marwan joined us, and David, you've been too quiet. So you need to join in at some point.
Yeah, am I the only David here?
I think you might be.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay? I'm a little far from my router.
You're clear to me. I think you're clear to everyone.
Okay. Well, I can only second and third what Heidi just said about the love that Bob is showing through the Circle Center in this time. You know, with one hand, he kind of swatted us down with this virus, and with the other, he's lifting us up so that we can connect with people all around the world. It reminds me of his seclusion, his work in seclusion, which he was doing his universal work, and he wasn't even though he's physically secluded, he reached out everywhere. So that makes me feel good about the center, about the Circle Center. It's just amazing. I don't want to blow up Angela's ego any more than it might already be, but she has, and the other people in charge, the center have done just a remarkable job in putting together all these programs and everything. Now, I'd like to briefly say that I'm very conservative about this virus and protecting myself and protecting others from it. There's a lot, I could go on and on about the pluses and minuses here, but I'm going to try to keep it brief. Right now, there's no vaccine. There might be one, within 5 to 8 months, something like that, but nobody knows how good it's going to be. Even the regular flu vaccine is only 30 to 50% effective. So it'll be great to have something, but it's going to really depend. And even if a person has immunity, at one point, as was mentioned, they can lose that immunity. We don't know if it's durable immunity. So there are a lot of question marks about a vaccine. And people talk about herd immunity when like 50 to 70% of the people become immune so that it doesn't get spread as much. But it's still going to spread. It just won't get spread as much. And so even if we reach that point, there's still going to be a risk for people, especially a risk for older or more high-risk people. Then there's the question of having a treatment. And I really am kind of optimistic about this. If we can manipulate things at the atomic level, surely we can figure out how to manipulate the body on a molecular level to make us resistant to this virus. So I'm kind of looking forward to that, but of course nobody knows when that will come. But I'm talking about the things that would make me comfortable physically being at the center. Another thing is that the virus, it's like a forest fire that flares up and goes down. And even though, I was going to say, even though right now South Carolina and Myrtle Beach are kind of low activity, but I can't say that because like last week, North Myrtle Beach had one of the highest activity rates that we've had for a while. So, it goes up and down. The Dakotas, I'm from North Dakota, and the Dakotas now are way up. There's so many places, the more rural states, but it goes back and forth. And they talk about the positivity rate. What is the percentage of the people who have been tested that test positive? And I think the CDC says if it's under 5%, that's a good sign. But if you look at some of them now, they're up to 19, 20%, 12%. I don't know exactly what it is here in South Carolina today or in North Myrtle Beach, but I would say if it were like 1 or 2% positivity rate, I'd feel more comfortable. But that's something I would keep my eye on, thinking about reopening the center. Also, there are these mitigation efforts like wearing masks, and wearing a cloth or a surgical mask is going to help because you're not going to spit or sneeze things out into the atmosphere there. But if you're in an enclosed space, just breathing will put virus particles out where they can linger in the air for hours. So the only thing that can really stop that is one of these N95 masks, respirators that they wear in the hospital, but they're not widely available yet. If they become widely available, that will be another a good thing, that would help to draw me back into the physical center. Now, without that, you've got air filtering in the distance, the large space within the room. Of course, the best large space is out of doors. But failing that, if you have an enclosed room, the longer you're in the room and the less ventilation there is, the more likely you are to breathe in some of this virus, especially if there's someone who has a large load of it. Fortunately, I think they say maybe only 20% of the people who have the virus are really going to be spreading it. But, if you're unfortunate enough to be near one of those 20%, there's a likelihood you can get it if you spend enough time in an enclosed room. Now, we were talking about the filtration in the room, and it's fine to have these filters, but if the air spreads through the room before it gets to the filter, then you might be in trouble. I'm not sure about having the air full of ozone. You're talking about electrified oxygen molecules or something like that. So I'm not sure how that would affect this virus. Having disinfectant is a good thing, like if you're touching doorknobs, or I suppose you're in the bathroom where people touch it frequently. But what I've heard is that this spreads mostly through the air, through breathing, and not through touching surfaces. It doesn't hurt to be careful about surfaces, but that's not going to be the main thing. But especially frequently touched surfaces. I'm looking here at my cell phone at an article in the Los Angeles Times from March 29th. It says, choir practice turns fatal. Coronavirus is to blame. And of course, that's about the super spreader event where they had a choir room that was as big as a soccer field. And they tried to social distance, not as much as I can see you're doing here at the center. And they weren't 100% in keeping away from each other. This was an early time in the pandemic, and they probably hugged each other and congregated for food together. And they were singing. So when you expel air with great force, it can go far across the room. So, and then they were there probably for an hour or more than an hour. So those are things to think about, the length of time, how loud your voice, are you singing, how big the space is. They tried to screen people at the door at this choir practice. And so no one actually appeared to be sick who was there. But of course, you can have no symptoms at all and have this. In fact, I think some of the worst times is just a few days before symptoms, manifest. But if you are going to do physical things at the center, I think you got to say, don't come if you're sick. Take the person's temperature and have one of those little oxygen meters, an oximeter it's called, because that's one of the symptoms. I mean, it's your oxygen level can drop without showing any other symptoms.
David,
So
David,
I'm,
I
yeah,
don't
I'm
want to stop this, but I
Yeah,
do think
I
other
was
people
just
might want to
finishing.
share.
Yeah, I understand that. So I'll just say in conclusion, until a lot of these things that I've said come about, I'm going to participate in the Zoom meetings, but not physically. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And I think you are expressing concerns that a lot of other people have too. So it's good to hear that. Let me ask you this question, and then Dennis is right. We want to make sure we hear from other people.
Sure.
What do you miss most about not having the physical circle open?
Just being close to people.
Okay, that's good. Okay,
Yeah.
I feel the same thing.
I believe Al had his hand up, John, so you
I
might want
saw-
to recognize Al Grasso.
Al, please. Yes.
Okay, anyway, you can see in the hallway, these four chairs, they're just always here, sofa chairs. And we had them spread out to about 15 feet in the video we made. They're usually about 12 feet away from each other. But since I'm the only one here, I'm gonna take my mask down. One reason we made that video is to make people feel comfortable as far as our spacing. These four chairs are always here, these sofa chairs. When we have our concert, we'll have them a good 15 feet away from each other, and we'll put out no more than 4 other chairs. So that'll be only 8 chairs. For anybody who wants to be out here, sometimes we have some passersby. Somebody down the hallway might hear the music and come and listen to it for a while. You saw our living room area. Ordinarily would accommodate about 16 people, but we spread the chairs so 7 to 8 people can very easily sit there comfortably using every other chair. They can be 1 chair distance from each other. And the same way with our chairs here. So that should make people feel comfortable. I showed a picture of our 2 air purifier and ozonator. We had the hand sanitizer, which I showed. We did some vacuuming this week. The place is really underused, so there doesn't need to be too much cleaning because it's not used much. But in addition to wearing masks and distancing when we open, we could also say no hugging for anybody who's concerned about that. So I think we've done all we can, and no one should have any concerns in that area. Speaking to Nan, who's no longer here, but she said she was going to see this later, I did ask Jeff if he would want to give a concert here, and I asked him to ask Nan, and he said he was going to ask Larry Green. Now, Nan said something like 20 or 30 people. Believe me, if we get 10 or 15 people, that's going to be a lot for our concerts. I'm hoping for 10, 15 maybe. 15 people, some can be out here, some can be inside. I've told the singers that I'm suggesting that people who want to be extra careful can come right when this concert concert starts or after it's already started, so there'll be no need to socialize. Or if they feel more comfortable, they can see the concert from out in the hallway. The doors will both be open. Our information table will be up, and they'll understand that people out here maybe want to do a little more, be a little more precautious about that. So, like I say, we have 3 concerts scheduled, one for the end of the month. The middle of November, we have a good friend of mine, Michael McConkey, who, by the way, was born the same day, same year I was. And at the end of the month, we have Bobby Bernstein. So we'll see, you know, what happens the first concert. But like I say, Nan, you have nothing to be concerned about. I don't think 30 people are going to show up. And if that's ever a consideration, we could say the first 15 people are welcome. Beyond that, you have to sit out in the hall. So that's about all I have to say. I will say that for the last 5 months, ever since this shutdown started, there's been 4 or 5 of us playing cards, and the masking is optional. When we play, we might have 2 to 6 other people come to socialize. The most we've had might have been about 10. We celebrated a birthday party in August where 12 people came, not all at the same time, but a total of 12 people. And we've had other activities, although like Dennis said, nothing on par to what we've had. I think our first step is try to make people feel comfortable coming back. I mean, today is an example of the 7 board members, 5 of us are here. I'm not a board member, but 5 of the 7 board members are here, the physical space. The other 2, John and Angela, are on Zoom. Hopefully next board meeting, we can all be here physically. That's about all I have to say. Oh, I have one more thing to say to you gamblers out there. 6 months ago, I suggested we give up this place and then we pick it up again whenever this COVID thing was over. But it's not over, and it might not be over for a while. I would bet anybody $10 that if Dennis goes talk to the management and says, you know, we thought about leaving 6 months ago, now we're thinking more seriously, that whoever it is going to offer him a discount. Dennis will not have to ask for it. If he's not offered a discount, I'll give him $10. Okay, goodbye, everybody. I'm going back inside. Jay Baba, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Al. So I think what, for me, what Al points out is that there are different levels of comfort that each of us have about what we need, what makes us feel okay about coming back. Some are more comfortable with doing it now, some are less comfortable, and how do we work all of that in? There are other people out there who maybe we don't see, but who are out there nonetheless, and we invite you to join in.
Hey, John, this is Merwan.
Hey, Merwan.
I didn't see the video, so I don't know. I joined late. I'm sorry. I kind of couldn't see the video, which I will later. But my question was, can the center not have more Zoom meetings the way we are having it now? My thought on that is I just found out from my chair of the department that I have to teach a course because one faculty member has gotten the COVID and he's in ICU. So it's quite close. So I guess the thought is, if we can kind of just lay low for a little while and use Zoom, I mean, we can still have the concert. There's no reason why the concert cannot be done right at the center, at the Circle Center there. And then people cannot watch it on Zoom. So I would be more than happy to do that. So my feeling is maybe we've kind of gone it so long, might as well a little bit go further out and not kind of let people be in harm's way in any ways. That's my thought.
Okay.
Well, Merwan, of course, that's going to happen de facto because we don't want anyone to come to the Circle Center if they feel unsafe. I mean, we want everyone to come to the Circle Center on the one hand, but we want no one to come to the Circle Center if it engenders fear. That's not the point of the Circle Center. It's to be a safe space, psychologically, spiritually, and certainly physically. So I think that will happen, but there's going to be a transition time. We don't know when that is, and the therapeutics have been developed in the last 6 months. Death rates, maybe not infection rates, but death rates are have dropped dramatically. And that's a very wonderful thing, because it means that when people do get sick, particularly high-risk people, that there's a much better chance that they're going to come out the other end alive. And that's a wonderful testament to our medicine. But you're absolutely right. We're not forcing anybody to come back here. We're not pressuring anyone, but we are trying to explore it, because there's got to be a morning after, and we're looking for that morning after.
Right, Dennis. My thought is, how often are we meeting on Zoom or on any other?
We have about 40 meetings a week on Zoom, and we won't.
We do?
Yes, and we won't be stopping them. Not
That's
just
wonderful.
because the
That's
Circle
wonderful.
Center
That's great. So I'm just that you answer my question there. So we're doing great there. So that's what I have felt is after a while, Zoom or face-to-face doesn't make much of a difference once you start relating to each other. So yeah, that really helps.
You do know that the full schedule is on our calendar, right, Merwin? That you can go to our web. I want to make sure you know that you can go to the website.
Yes,
and
yes.
Yeah, you know.
That's how I got into it, because I lost
okay.
my invitation from John, and so I had to go to the calendar, and I joined in from there. So
okay, very good.
And let me just say about the calendar, Merwan, that the Bombay group meetings are on the calendar, so you can join.
Right?
You could join a Bombay meeting through the Circle calendar.
Yeah, he's telling me that because I've been joining the Bombay meetings at 8 o'clock on Thursday morning. So.
So then we're going to get you to lead some of the Circle Zoom meetings. So then the Bombay group will have to join you here.
Sounds very good.
A lot of them do already.
Yeah.
Most of our morning meetings are actually filled with Indians.
Is that right? That's very good.
Yeah. We have like fantastic East-West conversations every single day. Our RT, the regular people who come to RT every single day, are from all over the US and all over India and the Middle East. We have people literally every day who are meeting, who are doing just phenomenal bonding, just coming together about Baba. We're not, having like intellectual flights of fancy or anything. That's just RT. RT is the prayers, of course, but it's sharing music, sharing poetry, sharing readings of Baba. That's every day, twice a day. So that's 14 meetings right there.
Wow. Okay.
So then other than that, we've had every single guest that we collectively can think of who've met Baba. They've come to speak. We've had, over the course of all of our Zoom meetings, we've generated, at this point, I think it's almost 200 videos. Wow. Some 50 of them are music concerts. Some 30 of them are Effort and Grace. Some 44 of them are informal chats where Jeff is just talking to people and just connecting to people and having conversations. Wow. It's not especially pre-planned. And then we have featured guests. We have some 30 featured guests who are just people who've met Baba and they're telling their stories. So it goes on and on. We've been doing a huge amount of work on Zoom, and it's not going to stop because people who are involved can take the ball, even if I, as an individual, can't keep things going. In fact, it's already happening where many events can actually occur without my direct intervention. I just supervise. So that's ongoing and will continue to happen. That's not the issue here. We're not talking about one or the other. And in fact, as Al is doing, he's going to start integrating. He's organizing these concerts. So we're integrating the use of the physical space and transmitting to Zoom as well. So people from elsewhere can still enjoy our programming. That's not the issue how can we be of more service to those around us? This morning or midday, I was speaking to someone in the community, you know, in some ways, being in Briarcliff now, I see a lot of Baba lovers at the beach. So in that sense, maybe I'm not missing the Baba gatherings quite as much as some, or vice versa. Maybe I'm more used to meeting Baba lovers than others. So then, you know, I'm not out of the habit of it. So one can argue both cases. But there was one person who said, well, I would come to small meetings at the circle. And I said to him, well, what meetings? And that's where we find this trouble, because if we're going to organize something that's super exciting for everyone to come, are there going to be too many people? Are there going to be too few people because they're afraid that there's going to be too many people? It's like a really impossible situation. Almost we have to call people by phone to say there's going to be 10 people come to the, you know, we almost have to like create meeting reservation lists or something. I don't know. I don't know how to answer this question, because the whole point of creating an event is that you want everybody to come, but then you have to have some sort of a reservation list or you know, people have to know in
RSVP or
advance that there are not going to be too many people there. Or, but if there's too few people there, is it worth our energy to go through a great deal of effort to set up the place, and then, you know, 3 people come because they're all afraid that there's going to be too many people? This is what this meeting is about, I guess, is trying to make better use of this space that we're paying rent on every single month. So.
Angela, if you have this idea starting of integrating face-to-face and Zoom, would it make sense to have a meeting, let's say a special event, take place in both venues, and just have a protocol of a limited number of people face-to-face?
The problem has not been that there are too many people. The problem has been that there's too few people and everybody's afraid that they're going to run into people. And this is where we're finding our big issue. I mean, we're only just beginning to start. Al's just starting with next week having an actual person giving an actual concert at the Circle Center. So we'll find out soon if people will come to that. That's one way to use the Circle Center, and we have plenty of Wi-Fi, so we could actually broadcast from the Circle Center and not necessarily be overly worried about who does show up or who doesn't show up or how many show up, because whoever that shows up will be using the space in a way that they couldn't necessarily do at home. So yeah, Heidi, our concern is not that people are busting to get in. Our concern is that there's nobody busting to get in.
But I'm going to sort of loop back to what Heidi said. We might have more people participate physically, come to it, if they felt secure about our safety protocols, so that if they knew that.
I'm not averse to putting into place a great number of restrictions. I will tell you that the whole thermometer thing, you know, the taking people's temperature is just busy work. That's neither here nor there. People can have fevers for many different reasons, or no fever at all for many different reasons, and that has nothing to do with much of anything. And as some might even point out, even having a positive COVID or a negative COVID is not necessarily here or there either. That being said, yes, we have to have some sort of measure of something. We have to go on some sort of data. If having a little digital thermometer thing makes any difference to anybody, sure, but they actually have to show up for us to take their temperature. They're not even showing up. So whose temperature are we taking?
Yeah, and I'd like to say 2 things. A very cogent thing was said by Jeff Wolterding in a meeting we had about 3 weeks ago on the whole COVID crisis. He seems to have his hand on the pulse of the local community. And I think he said of the, I don't know, 500 or so Baba lovers in the local area, he knew of only 2 who had gotten COVID. Definitely.
I actually know a few more than that.
Do you have better statistics, Angela? If you do, correct me, but it's interesting that we have a large Baba community here, but we've had relatively low incidence of COVID in our community, and that at least the two people I've heard about who had it locally, both recovered. So we have
Nor
more
did
than,
they get their wives sick, by the way.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Angela.
Those
please.
two cases you're referring to, neither of them got their own wives sick.
Yeah, which is really interesting because they probably weren't socially distanced from their spouse all the time. So you've got that. You've also got the fact that just looking at the Circle Center, and Al showed you, we can have socially distanced here, and I mean 6 feet if you want. We could do it even 8 feet on centers. We can have 20 people here easily, even 25. And again, if we utilize the hall, which is not a problem anymore because nobody else is there, we could have more. So I'm not even sure that we would have to limit anyone coming to events at all, because many of our events don't. 25 to 40, 45 people tended to be a fairly regular occupancy. We did have other events where we had many more, thank God. But so I think we have the space for that. And I mean, keeping CDC protocols, keeping sanitary protocols, keeping mask protocols. So between those two things, that the relative risk seems to be low in our community, and the fact that we do have the physical space, I have to agree with Angela a little bit, and the implication of what she was saying, which is I think there is a fear component here, which seems to be one of the overwhelming and dominant parts of this. And we'll certainly do everything we can to enhance safety protocols. I think that's an area, and to advertise them. But I'm not sure that that's the answer, and which is why I'd asked the question initially: what would have to happen in the United States for people to feel more comfortable in enclosed spaces? Because it may well be that Merwin's quite correct, that it may well be that this is not going to end for us at the Circle Center before it ends for everybody else in the United States. In other words, we may not be able to get back to any kind of occupancy before these CDC protocols are not deemed to be necessary anymore, or there are therapeutics to enhance them, so people's feeling of safety is much greater. But maybe not. That's why you asked the question, because you just don't know. And thank you, Angela, for sharing on all of that. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Merwan. Is there anybody else? Turn it back to you, John. Make sure everyone's had a chance to say something.
Let's do that. Raise your hand, join in, yell at us, whatever it takes. We want to hear. So let me just weigh in a moment on the last part of the conversation. Dennis can answer in part what I would need to see in order to feel better about becoming more, going out in public more, and that is to see a general decline, a regular decline in the spread rate rather than an increase, for instance. I mean, there's probably a magic number that if the country got below, we'd all feel a lot better. I mean, and by below, I mean the new cases per day rate. In terms of the anecdotal part about the fact that the Baba community has been blessed, and I'm going to say, well, I say blessed, but lucky that we've not had more incidences of it. I don't know why, but one reason might be that they, as a community, the Baba people have been more cautious and less out in the world, and that is why we are not as vulnerable. I know in North Myrtle Beach alone, just this past week, we had a super spreader event among the shaggers. I mean, they've had several people die from it, and 15 or 20, I don't know the exact number of people infected, but it was right here in North Myrtle Beach. And so it's out there. But I mean, I think that we are like the rest of the country, and that we have among us people who go from one extreme of no concern to the other extreme of they wear a mask in their own house. I'm exaggerating. So we're not going to be able to please everyone all the time in this. I think we know that. But the question I keep going back to and hearing is, what can we do to promote the safety protocols so that we can appeal to as many as possible within that range? And I don't know what all the right answers are to that. And that's why it's been very good for me to hear the different voices today. So I had one question, and actually it's been answered, but I just want to ask it again. It's been answered by some, but what has brought you the most joy about what the Circle has been doing in recent months? And Heidi, you were very eloquent in that, so thank you. And David, you were too. I think we surprised Merwan with how much the Circle is doing, but even for you, Dennis and Angela and Jim and Fair Stay and Jeff and all of us, do you have anything that you would like to add to that? What has brought you the most joy? And Al, include you in that.
Well, it will seem paradoxical since I don't join many of the Zoom meetings, but in point of fact, I believe that this entire new world that has been added by Angela and Jim and Fetish Day and the participants is nothing short of miraculous. And I am really hoping that regardless of how normal things become, that the Circle can continue to keep this international function. No, that's the wrong word. This international world, this international planet going, because Angela has been very, very articulate in describing how wonderful it is to have this entire group of people so disparate in space become so close emotionally and spiritually. And I think once you start a thing like that, you can't stop that. In other words, it becomes almost sinful to stop it. So I think that's going to be a very important part of the Circle from now on. And dealing with it and making it stable is going to have to be one of our large priorities as an organization.
I want to second Dennis, and thank you, Angela, for your tireless efforts in this regard.
Can I say something? I just couldn't agree more with what Dennis said and with what Angela's doing. To have, I mean, the silver lining is huge here. And the fact that people from all over the world can be focused on the same, thought, like an effort and grace, but with all of the Zoom. I mean, there's no way I could watch and they're recorded so you can watch them anytime, which is fabulous. And to have that, you couldn't watch all of them if you watched them 24/7. I mean, you could never catch up with all of it. And I feel like, new contacts and friends, and just to be able to be focused, like I said, with everybody on the same thing, like effort and grace, is just such a gift. And, I don't know if there've been events at the center that nobody's showed up for, but it seems to me that you won't know until you try it. I mean, it doesn't seem like there aren't people showing up because there really haven't been things to come to physically. But I don't feel the need to come physically because there's so much rich, wonderful stuff being offered online. And like Dennis said, I mean, God, I hope it never goes away because it's just been an incredible additional resource and way to connect and way to focus on Baba and learn from one another, share stories, share experiences and love and all of it. It's just been fantastic. So thank you, COVID. I mean, on the one hand, go away now, but it's been a great boon, really. Thanks.
Thank you, Robin. That was wonderful.
John,
Yes.
I had a thought on that. So truly that is surprising, the amount of things you're doing, Angela. And yes, you're right. I wasn't aware of all the things that the center is involved in. And so the next thought is, if you're doing so much, is there a need for any face-to-face, which I guess is the same thing Robin was saying. What I would suggest is, you already are planning on these talks and planning on these concerts. Just go ahead and have a concert and and make it like a live event, and then see, and then you can always invite people. So it's there does not have to be a differentiation between the virtual meetings and the real meetings. You say, well, we're having the real meeting here. People enjoy coming here and playing Baba music. People come and talk about Baba, and we do these things and just kind of make it open. That way, who wants to come will come. Who wants to join on Zoom will join on Zoom.
And I think, Berwin, we have started that, and we try to have, for example, when we have one of these discussions, we try to make it contemporaneous here, where people can come and we have it projected. People can actually see what's going on, and they can approach the computer and share if they wish to, if they don't have their own tablet. So we are started to do that. We have started to do that, and it works very well. It actually can work very well. So you're right. No artificial boundary here. This is a very permeable membrane, so to speak. Okay.
Can I just say one more thing there? That as we close, did someone answer the first question that you posed to how can the center serve you? Seems like we have.
No, I think
For now.
Yeah, all the questions really have been answered to some degree, and this is certainly helpful to us. And I'm very appreciative of everyone coming and giving us this input. This is what we need. And it won't be the last time that we come and ask these kinds of questions. So thank you. I'm going to give me 1 second if I can find it. There was a quote before we do the Beloved God prayer, if I can find the quote I was looking for.
While you're looking for that, I just wanted to add that, forgive me if I suggested that Angela's ego was any bigger than any of the rest of ours. I didn't mean it that way. I think we're all working from the same level here.
I'm here for service. I don't think that praising something that I've done raises my ego. It has nothing to do with my ego. It's just something that I've done.
Well,
and
I'm really,
the rest is all
really,
Baba,
really,
and I don't take any of that to mean that I'm in any way special.
I'm so grateful to what you and the rest of the people have been doing, though. Truly.
I think we all know that if we think we're special, Baba will deal with us accordingly. So Angela has been doing her best, but not to feel special, but to please her Master and Lord. This is the quote that I came across today. It's from In His Love, the A and B quotes. I don't know if any of you get that. I don't know who sends them out, but they're wonderful. But this one is, if a man is dissatisfied with his environment, it is usually because he does not know how to properly adjust himself to the environment. Instead of thinking, how can I get out of this, and becoming discouraged and depressed, one should think, what is the lesson that I should learn from this experience? So Baba is letting us know that we are doing exactly that. What can we learn from this experience? Because it's what we should be learning, and it is what he wants us to learn. Dennis, will you lead us?
Actually, I was going to ask Heidi to lead us. Heidi,
Okay.
would you lead us? Beloved God prayer. And everyone should unmute now, or if they choose,
Okay. Beloved God,
God,
help us all to love you more and more and more and more and still yet more,
yeah,
till we become worthy of union with you. And help us all to hold fast to Baba's demand till the very end. Hey, Baba.
Jai
God
Baba.
Meher Baba ki jai.
Jai Avatar.
Ha Meher Baba ki jai.
Avatar Meher
Baba ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you,
Thank you
everybody.
all. Thank you all. I found this very valuable. I know just from hearing John's voice, he has. I hope you have. And we will continue to pursue this and keep you informed. Thank you so much and have a great rest of day. Bye-bye.